I'm going to show you an example of how we can identify strength in a market or in a market movement, or in a particular stock before that before that price push occurs. And we see it obviously in these sensitive indicators. Again, just like gaps before the gap, with this system we can see those, and we can see there's various ways to see the strength of a push that's going to occur. And that's primarily in the line length of indicators. This particular example I have is a zip red line, and in looking at the charts, I have here Tesla, and I'm in March of 2017, and I have all the pink lines are on the same day, and the main area that I'm going to be looking at is right in here on the middle chart. Excuse me. Specifically, I have in the middle chart, I have the candles with the price chart and the zip chart. On the left, I have the trend chart, the power chart, and the swing chart. Now, the area, or the thing that I'm looking at right here is, let me move this pink line back one day, and this is the day when a zip green poked its head out underneath both the pink and the yellow line down here, and that's a signal for an uptrend, or the next day up, I should say, rather. And excuse me. And we also, if you see it, we have Zip Zion that's right down here at the bottom. It is still highest in this example, but there's things that tell us that because it's so close to being almost going under the other lines, that the next day it's likely to do that if any movement up occurs at all. And so we can kind of theorize that this is going to be the last day based solely just on the Zip Zion in a highest position. Because we know that Zip Zion, when it's highest, price moves down. Excuse me. But we identify, if you look here, also up here in the price chart, we see price red is at 2, and it is also under price blue at 5. And when price red goes under blue, there's a good indication that it's going to go up fairly soon. That price red under blue is not a signal that would tell you. It's just a supporting piece of evidence that tells us that it can go up soon. Now, right now on this day, Zip Red is at 12, and the next day Zip Red goes to 83. So it jumps 70 some points. Again, if you haven't heard me talk about the 3 general categories, Zip Red, if it jumps 50 points, it usually will go back down. If it's in that 70 point range, there's different things that can happen. But if it jumps in that 90 point range, where like if it goes from 4 to 89 or something like that, that usually when it jumps that much, it's jumps close to 90 points. That is an indication that excuse me, the Zip Red line is going to go down the next day, but the price is going to hold, or the price is going to go up when the Zip Red jumps that 90 points. Sometimes you'll have a Zip Red that'll go from 30 to 95. When the Zip Red ends up real high on a price movement like that, that also is an indication that we'll have a continuation of the price. in the form of an uptrend. But things that I want to point out to you here also, when is the supporting evidence when you see things happen. When we were back here on this day, the day before the large increase in ZIP points that it moved up, when that on this day we identified different things that may or may not have occurred, and in particular we have a twin power yellow and ZIP yellow lowest, and that's a pattern that tells us that the market is going to be moving up. It's those twin yellow lines together when they're lowest and moving up that we have an uptrend that is taking place. And so from this indication, I might add also that that ZIP pink and ZIP yellow are right down here near green. Green's at 0, yellow's at 3, and pink is at 1. And you can see that over here in the data window that I've got. I like to include this whenever I can, so you can follow along with price numbers as I'm talking. The other thing too, enlarge or hit the full screen so that you can see these lines better when you're looking at the videos. That will help a lot, because I know sometimes it's tough to see what is going on a small screen like this. Excuse me. Now, back on the day that the ZIP line jumped to 83, this is a strength in the market that we see before that day. Also, this day is the day after the pinpoint ZIP green as well, yesterday, and normally when we see a ZIP pink green line, or when we see a pinpoint green, ZIP green, we obviously don't know that it's a pinpoint till the following day. But what we can sometimes we can see that it's likely to be a pinpoint, and there's various things that will tell us that. The ZIP green in itself is in a bottlenose, and that obviously gives us a real strong indication that it's going to be reversing back up just like a normal bottlenose down pattern does. On this day, both yellow, the twin yellows are both in that BOC pattern that I talked about, and but we only had a small movement. And this day that the pink line is on, you can see that we're basically at the bottom of a trend. And by that what I mean is, if you look over here into the swing chart, you can see that the swing gray is in a low angle down line. And I'll move that to just show it a little bit better so you can see it. And obviously a low angle down at a bottom is an indication that next day it's going to go up. But keep in mind the swing gray is a somewhat slower line. It's a deep cycle line, so we're hitting the bottom of a cycle here, and as a result of that, that's one real strong indication on this day with the little green candle, that next day it's going to be a bigger candle. You may or you may not have heard me talk about when you get indications like the day before, where this pink vertical line, we had the last red candle with price down to 2 and under blue, price blue. that we usually get a stronger up movement, but we didn't. We had a small green candle on this day, and when that happens, then the next day, oftentimes there's a bigger green candle. The low angle down on the zip gray would tell you that the two yellow lines, power yellow and zip yellow, have started the uptrend, and often the first or the second day is the strongest movement. So that's a definite a definite thing to keep in mind, because again, if you've heard me talk about reversal or cycle trend changes, you've heard me say that it oftentimes is in the first or second day. And as well, if you go up in here into the trend chart, I'll expand this a little bit. You can see that on yesterday, the last red candle, red was in a low angle down touching the blue, and green was right above it going down. And in that example, red is under green, and when red crosses over green, you have the start of an uptrend. So on the first green candle day, where the pink-blue line here is on the trend chart, red has crossed up over green to indicate the start of an uptrend. So there's several things that are happening here. The other thing, this is part of if you go back to the last red candle, that would be the day before the pink line in the power chart, right down in here. This is the last day that the power 4, the pink, blue, white, and yellow are underneath the 0 line and or the power orange and green line. And the next day is when most of them cross over, or I should say it's actually 2 days, but the thing I'm trying to point out to you is that the crossover day, which is the day after the pink line, that crossover day, in this case here, it crossed over power orange and green and the 0 line, and when those 4 cross over both of those at the same time, sometimes you get or oftentimes you get a stronger green candle. And obviously, if you had a chance to trade the day where the pink line is at right now versus the following day, we would much rather trade on the following day, because on that day it went from it went from a low of 246 to a high of 258. So, and the other thing is, note that your trend blue lines are down lowest, and some will say, well, follow that into an uptrend, but I'm not a believer in that. Simply because we want to watch our fast lines. We're more concerned about what the narrow lines do or the quick moving lines do. All right, enough said about how the zip red is some would say a leading indicator. I say because of its length of line, the indicator line length, it's just so large that it gives us insight into a future movement, just like it does in this example. Exciting system. I don't care if it's recognizing gaps up before they occur, or the strength of a market. I mean, no other system out there that I'm aware of can identify the strength of a market movement or a market push before it even happens. I mean, obviously you can't do it all the time, but there are certain methods that you can use to do that. Just like with recognizing a gap before the gap occurs. This is exciting, isn't it?